90 to give your opinion, your take on the show. But here's the deal. I'm LaDonna Raeh with Raeh Consulting, and I'm a proud member of the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce. And we want to welcome you because we are sponsored by Wind Creek Casino Southland. Now, if you haven't visited their location, you're missing out. Make sure you get out there. And we're here each and every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. And we're coming to you live on iHeartRadio as well as Facebook. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Wake Up Show Chicago, for exclusive content. But before we get into today's powerful discussion with our special guest, Senator Willie Preston, I have to introduce who I am co-host to and who's sitting across from me. I got two winners here. I've got the president, CEO, and founder of the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce, and also the chairman of the board of the National Black Chamber of Commerce in Washington, D.C., Dr. Larry Ivory. And of course, I've got our assistant producer, Mr. Lorenzo T. Hughes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, LaDonna. It is another great day to be able to be on the air with you and our listening audience. I'm always excited when we have, great people with great content to share with our listening audience. So this is a great day, and let's make it happen. Before we get started, let me also talk about something, LaDonna, that's important, that's coming around the corner. On June the 26th, we're going sailing. So every year, the chamber does this VIP cruise, and this year is no different. On June the 26th, we will be setting sail at the Navy Pier. Go get your tickets at ilbcc.org and get yourself set. Every year the cruise sells out. Don't wait till the last moment. So get your ticket and let's come and network with some incredible leaders, mayors, politicians, business leaders from Constellation, different companies, United Airlines. So come and participate and network on June the 26th, on Thursday. And let's make it happen. LaDonna?
Well, Larry, you telling your age when you say the Navy Pier. Seasoned people put the in front of places like the Facebook, the
Uh-huh.
Navy Pier. So I just wanted to point that out.
I'm an old fellow, LaDonna, so it's okay.
It truly is. It truly is. And yes, I second that. Last year we did the VIP cruise and it was amazing. An amazing opportunity to network with other businesses, thought leaders. We had some different individuals there that were CEOs and executives. And I saw those business cards being exchanged, both physically and digitally. And I think we have a new article that's going out that talks about the empowerment of networking. I had to cough there, Larry. You were supposed to fill in for me, but let's get to our
I'm
guest.
just ready to do that.
All right, guys. Joining us today is a man who has been making waves, not just in Chicago, but all the way down in Springfield. He's a true public servant who understands the importance of equity, opportunity, and accountability in government. He proudly represents Illinois' 16th district in the state Senate and is a fierce advocate for working families, economic development, and ensuring our voices are heard in every room where decisions are made. Please help me welcome to the Wake Up Show Chicago, Illinois State Senator Willie Preston. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
I am doing well. Thank you for having me. I would have loved to have joined you in studio, but my wife told me I couldn't go outside until I finished my chores.
See, we had the seat ready for you. I got the camera ready for you. I knew something came up.
Yes. But happy to be here nonetheless.
All right.
These are incredible times politically. So, I'm prepared to get right into it. And hopefully your listening audience will chime in and provide some questions to help me. And if I can answer them, I'll be happy to do so.
Okay, for sure. Give us an update. Give us a peek, or a peek, I should say, into what's been going on with your initiatives.
Yeah. So we recently gavelled out last Sunday from session where we passed another budget, the state budget. That budget is roughly $54 billion. It was a very, very difficult budget cycle, quite frankly, the most difficult budget cycle I've been involved in. And the reason why this budget was particularly difficult because there were significant cuts, and there were really devastating proposed cuts to things like our safety net hospitals like Holy Cross on the south side, Mount Sinai on the west side of Chicago, and quite frankly, all over the state where there are a number of Black population where Black people are the large populations where we have these safety net hospitals. And so I think about Touche down in East St. Louis. So as chairman of the Senate Black Caucus, I was embroiled with my members in a deep fight to get more resources for those hospitals because they're on the brink of closing. Now I can tell you we were successful. I am proud to say, despite this very, very difficult budget, each safety net hospital received more direct funding from the state of Illinois than they've received in the past as a result of the fight that we took to both chambers. So I want to applaud my colleague and to the governor's office. So we don't anticipate any closings for our safety net hospitals, but they are still, as they've been for many, many years, in difficult financial situations. But what exacerbated this, just for your listening audience knowledge, was the cuts coming from the federal government in Medicaid. Those cuts hurt our hospitals tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
Senator,
And
let me
Senator,
ask you a question
go
real
ahead,
quick.
Claire. Sorry.
All across everybody knows, well, at least most people know, that we're in a very unusual place, especially on Capitol Hill, with the president doing some incredible things and running the country by executive orders. And we're proud that we're going to have one of the leading lobbyist firms on Capitol Hill to be on the call after you. But how do based upon what we're seeing coming out of Washington, give us some insight in terms of what other things you think may be directly impacted. And then I'd like for you to kind of talk a little bit about your position on Black business, because that's really kind of our sweet spot in terms of getting greater participation throughout the state, because we have places like the Illinois Department of Correction that has close to a $2 billion budget, but they only do $1.8 million for African American businesses. And we think that's deplorable. And we have to, in my opinion, we got to fix that and challenge that. So I'll pause there and kind of let you give us some insight in reference to what you see happening on Capitol Hill and kind of go from there.
Oh, thank you for the question. Look, everything as a result of this so-called DOGE is every single state agency, every single program is being cut federally. I can tell you that I have sat in the Office of Homeland Security for Illinois and spoke with their director, and they said that they have $262 million to protect the homeland. They have $262 million that the federal government has not released in funding because they said that they're reviewing their DEI programs. Now, I think this is important, not simply because of the dollar amount, but it's important because I think President Trump and the Republicans who are in charge federally, they have the House, they have the Senate, and they have the Oval Office. They purport themselves to be the sort of vanguard of everything defense, everything homeland security. And when they are in charge, what they are holding up significant funding is making the homeland, making America less safe and more vulnerable for terrorism internally on the home front. And so when you ask me a question on what other programs, what other agencies are in jeopardy? It's a simple answer, every single one, because what they are doing is they are cutting every program so that they can provide tax cuts to the 1%, the uber wealthy people across this country. And to me, I think that is very important. This is not hyperbole. This is not something that folks are just, want to take a shot, because I can tell you, I'm not a person that is going to be disagreeable for the sake of being disagreeable. I don't care who's in the White House. I'm not a combative person by nature. I'm trying to figure out how to get outcomes for the Black community. And so if there are areas where we agree, then I'm going to be saying, hey, I agree with them on this, which is what I did when I passed the Illinois Food Safety Act, which was getting rid of or banning the red dye, propylparaben, these dangerous food additives that's inside of our food supply that are causing cancer, hypertension in children, and other deadly diseases. RFK, he's helping on that front. Okay, we agree on that. But these cuts are dangerous. And that's why I take it right back to what I've communicated to the governor. We are not going out of business in the state of Illinois. The safety net hospitals in particular are what the chief concern for the Black Caucus, because not only are these healthcare centers standing between life and death for many of our people, but in many instances, these are the economic engines of the communities that they serve in. You take, for instance, St. Bernard Hospital, located on the south side of Chicago in the Inglewood neighborhood, a neighborhood I was born and raised in, and I love dearly. This particular hospital is the number one economic engine for the community. It's the number one employer for Inglewood. Can you imagine them having to cut that hospital services, cut jobs there, or Lord forbid, close, or go into bankruptcy, which was what they were on the brink of doing? So we fought to make sure that the state stepped in and filled more of the gap of the funding there because of the results of the federal cuts that came down through Medicaid. Now, you asked something about something that's very important, Black business. Thank you so much for that question. I have a bullhorn. I use the bully pulpit that I enjoy as a state senator to yell to the rooftop. The Black community has to reestablish our relationship with the business community. Full stop. You talked about IDLC. IDLC, I have a good working relationship with the director of DLC, the Department of Corrections. We should not be housed in the Department of Corrections at the highest levels, but not participating in any of the business. And so I can tell you that the Black Caucus, I am asking our caucus moving forward, working over the summer, something I don't think we've done before, to carve out our economic agenda. We have 4 pillars. One of the pillars that we are not, in my view, focused in hard enough on is the economic pillar. And you said it rightly. We have the Department of Corrections, those are contracts. So what myself and a colleague in the House, Leader Will Davis, what we're working on is legislation that's going to compel a significant amount of those contracts coming out of DLC to go to minorities. What I said is, let's go to Black firms. And the pushback I've gotten is that we can't explicitly say for Black contractors. I disagree with that. They say that it's illegal. And I say, well, we have a job. We have 3 branches of government. We should legislate. And if the courts believe that we have done something that is unconstitutional, then let the courts deal with it. And the reason why I say that is because I look at programs called HBIA, which was healthcare for undocumented people. That was specifically done, a program done specifically for folks that were not American citizens, healthcare for undocumented people. And I had a problem with that. I held a town hall last year about it. I was very vocal and public about it. And one of my goals was to ensure that we're going to have to take those monies in tight budgets and ensure that our community interests the interests of Black people were meted out. And so I can tell you right now that there was a very, very tough budget, but there were a lot of fights, and that HVIA program is no longer funded.
Well, Senator, let me ask another question because you hit on some really important issues to the chamber. One of the things I'll share with you is that there are laws on the books already that are designed to get our participation up, and that's the sheltered market that really allows us, based upon the law. This is a procurement law that states that if you find there is discrimination, where there's disparity, you shall establish a sheltered market to correct the discrimination, and it can be negotiated and non-negotiated bid. We could use the sheltered market, which is a law, and they've been dinged for not following the law, but the enforcement has been lacking in reference to that. The other thing I'd like to just mention real quick is that when you talk about healthcare and taking a look at, America being the 37th, ranked 37th in terms of healthcare outcome and the lack of culturally sensitive outcomes for us, all the things that are bad, we're doing bad at. We've been working with SIMPCO solution from a preventive care side, and we're continue to fight and advocate because it's going to create an economic boom and with over 100 Black businesses participating. But at the same time, it really kind of reduces the cost of healthcare because you're doing preventive care. So give us some insight because I know you've probably had I hear that you've had some conversation with Dr. Sterling. Why come we didn't get that over the finish line, or did we get it over the finish line? Because I'm not certain of that at this point in time. But again, the sheltered market and the SIMCO. Can you give us some insight from your side in terms of? And then I'd like to kind of highlight the other things that you want the audience to understand about Springfield.
Okay, no, so thank you again. Excellent questions. So I will tell you, I met with Dr. Sterling. He was introduced to me sort of towards the end of this year's session. Mid to late end of the session, I've had a couple of substantive meetings with Dr. Sterling, and I like what Dr. Sterling is presenting. Now, I think that it's important to note that sometimes, Springfield is a place that I learned the nature of the place is hurry up and wait, because a number of these initiatives take years and a couple of general assemblies to accomplish something, because you're dealing with a body of people. You're dealing with 118 state reps, 59 state senators, and you have to get these magic numbers, 30, 60, and 1. So that's 30 state senators to say yes to something, 60 state reps to say something, and 1 governor to say yes after we pass something. And we haven't even gotten into the enforcement after we do all of that. I think that it was now I'm not certain what Dr. Sterling, I don't recall what Dr. Sterling has been in the process, but I know that he and I have had some substantive conversations, and I believe what he is offering is something that's in the state's interest. I'll say that publicly as I said it to him privately. We did not get his initiatives in this tight budget this year, but that does not mean that we're not going to get his initiatives in, because we do need to bring down these health disparities. We need to close that gap. Black people in particular are last in every economic indicator, one, but our health care is at the bottom as well. And I think that when you spoke to culturally competencies, right, that is so real. Look, my wife, I'm a married man. My wife has 6 children. My wife and I. Let me not get in trouble for that.
I was going to say, I was going to try to help you,
Oh my God. And she's listening, y'all. Hey, if y'all see me in the neighborhood doing what I do best, knocking on doors, and I blink twice, that means she's kidnapped me and she's going to do something to me. So y'all pray for me.
Senator Willie Preston, you have to watch TikTok. There's a hand signal that says, help me. You got to learn those hand signals so that everybody knows what you're doing.
I'm on it. She may be 4 foot 6'3", but she is a mean lady when she needs to be. No, so I'm sorry. I'm gonna go back to cultural competencies, and one of the things that I'm proud of coming up out of this session is House Bill 2517, and that's a bill where we require we require explicit bias training in the healthcare field of maternal health. Anybody who's working in maternal health, they have to have some cultural competency training to get their certifications and to work with Black mothers. Because what my wife has told me, look, now my wife has had a lot of experience because we have 6 children, but all of those experiences of delivering life of Black children have not been pleasant. And I've heard that from a myriad of people, which is why I'm proud to have passed that legislation that requires that, because too many of our women are not believed, are treated like they're like animals and cattle as they're pregnant, and that is stopping and impacting their prenatal care. And we can't have that. And so we have one birthing center. I'm proud that I was a chief co-sponsor of that legislation, along with my colleague, Senator Lakeisha Collins. We have one birthing center on the south side of Chicago. But if you go to other parts of the state, the north side certainly, you'll see so many birthing centers. And so in terms of healthcare, we need options. What Dr. Sterling and SIMPCO have successfully persuaded me to believe is that they will add significant value to access to healthcare. But it's important to note that what they're trying to do is preventative healthcare. And that's something that we're sorely lacking on. So I can tell you they have a champion in me moving forward, and I will do everything I can to move my colleagues to make sure that not only we support it, but we fund these healthcare centers that he's proposing to bring, particularly in the Southland and the South suburb, where it's so sorely needed. And look, let's be frank. Black folks are, by and large, we overly populate the Southland, and we need to make sure that we invest in that, and accordingly, because we know that where our populations are high at, we also see the disparity. We also see, I'm sorry, you all forgive me. We also see that's where the needs most are, where most of our folks are.
Yeah.
You asked another question. I want to touch on that. And close the door, son. I apologize. I'm multitasking, being a daddy and a state senator. It's Saturday. I have to drop my son off.
So yeah, go ahead, Lorenzo. Sorry.
If you're still listening, I have a question because I'm trying to listen to what it is that you're saying. I know earlier you mentioned something about I guess using the word Black as to describe the situations that we're in, and I get in this administration they're trying to get rid of the DEI terminology, but listening to what you're talking about, wouldn't the situation that we're dealing with the heavy metals within our foods and the high fructose corn syrup and things like of that nature, and needing the different improvements in healthcare, wouldn't this also fall up under the human rights request? I mean, if we were to replace DEI with human rights, wouldn't we be able to get the same or even a better outcome with our requests?
Look, I can tell you right now, as it pertains to the food additives, I passed on a bipartisan basis the Illinois Food Safety Act, which would ban these food additives from being in our food supply. I passed it twice. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, it has been held up or stalled in the House, which the House enjoys a super majority. We have a Black speaker, Speaker Chris Welch, and I don't think that there's any. I think this stuff has to be acknowledged because it matters. We should have passed this out of the state of Illinois a long time ago, some time ago. The state of California passed it. And so a lot of this stuff is not even being in the food supply in California. So I'm going to ask folks, I'm going to refile that bill. I don't even have to refile it. We're making a push for veto session. to ask the House, and I'm asking all of anybody who can hear the sound of my voice, call your state representative and tell them to call the Illinois Food Safety Act. Now, look, I'm not going to sit here and be coy about this stuff. The manufacturers are so powerful in the state of Illinois. They are making calls, they're twisting arms because they want to make sure that they don't turn, that their profits are not disturbed at all. They like the way things are. However, the greater public interest is that we stop these food additives from coming inside of our food supply. And we don't need to change our messaging or declare our human rights. And I'm going to tell you why. As a black man, I think that it is important, crucially important, that we speak about black interests. And we say that. We don't say black and brown. We don't say people of color. We don't say human rights. Because what we're doing when we do that is we're conceding. We're conceding that we as a black community cannot stand up and proudly proclaim our sovereignty as a race and say that these are our interests and we're fighting for these interests. And I will never concede that. I can tell you that right now because we have already slid too far in that direction as it begins. Because as we start to say these change the connotation of our advocacy, everybody benefits from our fight. Everybody benefits from our struggle.
But we're showing
we
up
don't
to the
benefit
fight.
from everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's just as effective. You know, we're showing up to the fight.
Amen.
Uh,
Well, I gotta slide in because Larry, you know what time it is, right? So I think we can have I should say Senator Willie Preston on again. And Senator Willie Preston, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Only because we
LaDonna,
have
before we let him
yeah,
go, though,
all right.
let me just say this to the senator. Senator, I've heard great things about you, and one of the things that we try to focus on is that how do we make things better, for our communities. And like Dr. King says, of the good things in life, the black man and black woman has a small portion. Of the bad things in life, they have a double portion. SIMCO
mm,
solution is a preventive care. We want to work with you and work with the caucus and the governor to make sure we get this thing over the finish line because the economic impact is relevant to our own survival. So it's a priority to the chamber. It's a priority to a lot of people that we know throughout the state. And then we'd like to have you come back and talk a little bit more about procurement and Black business participation, because we know if we strengthen Black communities and Black people, we strengthen Black communities and we also strengthen America. But we got to make sure that we
that's
have
right.
economic participation. Continue the great work that you're doing. I wish we had a little more time. I think we got a caller, LaDonna. I know we have our incredible lobbyist firm out of Washington, D.C. that's going to be coming up next here in a moment. But if we have a few more moments, let's take a caller and then we can get to Ashley. I think is it Asha?
It's Asia.
Miss Asia. Okay.
All right. Here. All
Now,
right.
thank you for that, brother Ivory. I just want to say to your point, I want to offer you publicly, and I'll connect the details privately, but an opportunity to come and have a conversation with the Black Caucus over the summer. I think one of the things that I've identified during my short tenure as a lawmaker as an area where we can improve as a caucus and therefore improve as a community is doing the requisite work over the summer after we gavel out, so that when we go back into session, be it veto or the fall session, we have that collective agenda with the advocacy organizations that are committed to improving Black life, such as your organization. So let's follow up offline and let's figure out a date where you can get with the caucus over the summer so we can start to have a ready-made agenda to have that clear economic agenda in lockstep with your organization and our caucus.
We look forward to it, Senator.
All right. We do have a
Thank you very,
caller.
thank you very much.
Before you go, Senator, we do have a caller. Brother Hall?
Yes, LaDonna.
Yes. Hi. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, sweetheart. Listen, let me just say this. I thank this senator here for wearing the suit. He didn't he didn't back up off of none of his principles and what he stand on, and that's what we need. When you hear me hollering and whistling about those that don't wear the suit, it's because we know that you can do better. There's a few others, and they know who they are that's doing great work. But we must hear this. What Preston did this morning, that sent a good message, brother. We don't necessarily have to be anti, but ain't nothing wrong with being pro. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Keep up the good work, Senator. We're watching, brother. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Hall.
Oh, wow. I appreciate that. Boy, as a politician, you get a compliment.
Can you believe
This is going to be a good day.
Don't worry. It was recorded.
I'm
I'll
very
send
grateful.
it to you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to your audience. I think I would be remiss if I didn't say a couple things, if I may, before I get off the air. One, we're going to have, every year we have Juneteenth, a beautiful celebration coupled with a Senator Preston's basketball tournament. I would invite everybody to come to O'Halloran Park, located on 83rd and roughly Honorary, 83rd and Honorary, June 19th at noon. No matter where I am, I'm going to always be there. June 19th, 83rd and Honorary. It's going to be an incredible event. And I think it's also important for me, although we may not be in lockstep as a community, to mention the fact that I did issue a statement, and I've spoken with the governor's team and others asking for a compassionate release of Mr. Larry Hoover, a person that is no angel, but is not a monster, because I believe that no one is irredeemable. Someone that spent over 5 decades incarcerated and 30 years inside of 23-1 conditions that are inhumane. We're asking that, this person gets compassionately released, as his sentence was commuted at the federal level. It's now at the state level. And I think that our community should stand for all of the criminal justice reform and in the power of redemption that we have been standing in with some of our criminal justice reform policies.
Nice. Well, you left out a little bit of something on that Juneteenth celebration, Senator Willie Preston. Isn't there going to be the relative history stage play also going on?
I didn't know if I had an opportunity to get on all the details, but there's going to be a beautiful play. We have a stage, a huge outdoor monitor. This play is going to be so powerful. I don't want to give a sneak peek. I will tell you, if you're Black, if you're an African American, and you come to my Juneteenth event, June 19th at noon on 83rd and Honorary, and you watch this play, you are going to be in for a treat. You're going to walk away. These are some talented artists who drafted, created, and are going to act out this play in live time. And it is, I'll tell you, I've read the play. I'm moved by reading it. And I think we're going to have an incredible time. Now, in addition to that, again, I don't want to spill the beans. We have a very special guest coming for the 3-point contest. So if you want to watch these young folks, play basketball and have a 3-point contest and a dunk contest, we're going to have all of that. And I don't do hot dogs and hamburgers simply. We're talking ribs, fried catfish, baked macaroni, the whole 9 yards. My seniors will have their senior oasis, as they always do, set aside. It's just a wonderful, wonderful time every year, and I couldn't be prouder of this community event that I'm hosting every Juneteenth.
Thank you, Willie Preston. And just so Senator, just so you know, I'm in the play, and so is Lorenzo. so
Yeah, shameless plug here, huh? So I was going to say that, LaDonna. I know that.
I'm playing the role of Priscilla. So
we got to go, LaDonna, because we have
we do.
Yes. And Senator, if you get a chance, we have one of the incredible lobby firms and one of the newest member of Phoenix Strategy, who's going to be coming on next, giving us some real insight, because they're on the ground on Capitol Hill meeting with the Black Caucus leadership. And they are an incredible organization that has a pulse on what's happening on Capitol Hill. So LaDonna, let's introduce our guests. And thanks a lot, Senator Preston. We're going to have you back on real soon.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you both. Thank you.
All right. Sometimes we're just having so much fun here, Larry. We have some really renowned individuals that come on to the show, including our next guest. And this is such a treat because it's always great to have someone from Phoenix Strategies come and capture the essence of the full conversation and what's going on in Washington. Ladies and gentlemen, Aisha Mills is with us in from Phoenix Strategies. Good morning. I think you're muted. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
There we are. Good
Yes.
morning. It is lovely to wake up with y'all in Chicago. Dr. Ivory LaDonna, how y'all doing?
Doing
Great.
Doing
swell-tastic.
well, doing
We
well.
are always glad to be with you. Thank you for having Phoenix Strategies to talk about all the things that are going down in Washington that impact our day-to-day experiences and our Black businesses.
For sure. Well, give us an update. What's going on in Washington?
Well, I mean, despite what is dominating the news cycle, right, with this whole breakup of the bromance between Elon and Trump, um,
Hmm.
I just want to remind people that they are constantly coming up with these looky-loos and ways to distract from the real crazy harms that
Hmm.
they are doing and the devastation that the policy that they're trying to move will do to the people. So, what is happening right now this week, the Senate has now received this Trump budget proposal. And it's already been passed through the House, a version of it. And so now the Senate is working on what we call essentially a markup and a budget reconciliation to go through line by line and determine how much of these cuts that Trump is attempting to do are actually going to make it through. And I have to tell y'all that just to kind of start off, because we're here with family, this morning, I just want to remind everybody that what this administration is doing federally, whether it be the Doge cuts and the cutting of staff, whether it be this budget and its proposal to literally zero out line items for minority businesses. They're trying to get rid of get rid of the Small Business Administration's 8A program for minority contractors. They're getting rid of the Minority Business Development Agency. They're doing everything they can to essentially get rid of DEI and to stifle minority businesses from having a fair and competitive shake. And the thing about that is so sinister is that what we know to be true is that this budget is ultimately going to add $3 billion to the deficit in this country, which is always like, oh, $3 trillion. It's $3 trillion is going to be the deficit. And it's a massive cost to our economy. If we were to simply ramp up these programs that bridge the gap for competitiveness with minority businesses, with Black businesses, then what we would do is we would actually add $3.9 trillion to our economy. So here we are right now in Washington with this looming question. Why is it that this supposed so-called government efficiency, right, administration would slash and burn and cut minority competitiveness out of our entire economic framework, knowing that is going to really damage our economy, when if we just invested in us, we could boost it. So what we're doing right now is we're talking to members on the Senate side and on the House side, just really saturating the Hill to try to hold them accountable to that question. Like, if you care so much about American competitiveness around the globe, then why would you kill education? If it matters that we are able to have the strongest manufacturing and transportation and logistics in the world, then why would you literally ice out the suppliers, the supply side, which tend to be a lot of minority businesses that help that industry thrive? So that's what's going on here, and I appreciate y'all always keeping your eyes on the prize about the real consequences of these looky-loos and these crazy media fallouts and these personality politics and the back and forth with the silly man who is calling himself the chief right now, and whoever his enemies and foes might be at any particular time, because that is just a distraction from the real tried and true challenges that we face with regards to our economy and what might happen over the coming months, and how Black communities, Black businesses are absolutely going to suffer because of the cuts in this budget that they are attempting to pass right now.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm concerned about when you talk about this big beautiful bill, and like Musk says, the abomination. The, what's in there is absolutely incredible. and I'm trying to figure out if this a recipe to undermine democracy. Well, we know it's a policy to undermine democracy, but we could have, coming from the investment banking background that I come from, this really puts us at some degree of risk on, on the international policy and everything else, because we're forcing people, even our allies, to take a different look at us and how they do things. And I think we're making ourselves far more vulnerable than we are making ourselves far stronger.
Yes, sir. And what you're talking about is really having a sense of our competitiveness around the world and our economic vitality and security. And we are absolutely demolishing that. I mean, right now, just let's talk about the trade and tariff policy that has been the whole brouhaha going back and forth, where Trump has essentially been. He's essentially been manipulating the market with his threats and his bully tactics. And we're going to, throw these tariffs down, but oh no, we're not going to do it today. After the market crashes, then we're going to, back off of that and allow people to essentially buy low, right? And then boost the
Mm-hmm.
market again. I mean, all of these things that he's doing with just the trade policy alone will have devastating consequences to our American companies, period. Period. Just very large. And the other pieces of what's happening here with regards to this budget, the drastic reductions in research funding. For example, when you have a massive cut at NIH to research funding, when you're trying to neuter the National Science Foundation, these research dollars that the federal government has provided have literally fueled innovation that has put America best in class in technology, in AI, in so many things, in aviation, etc. And so when you rescind these investments that happen in our ability to really build and lead an industry around the world, what is going to happen to our economy, right? We're no longer going to be the leaders and the top players. So there's so much there that is making us vulnerable, and also just jeopardizing our overall positioning. And one of the other pieces of this that we don't talk enough about, I believe, this assault that's happening right now on higher education. We're seeing, with Harvard clearly is the big fight right now. Columbia, he's going after all of these institutions of higher learning. Those are literally the bastions of like discovery and research and growth. People are flocking from all around the world to come to our research institutions. And so by having this real nativist stance that says we don't want anybody from outside this country coming here, and we're going to start cutting all of the public-private partnerships and grants and funding that go into the intellectual development of the next generation of technologies, what are we doing? Well, we're devaluing education ultimately, which is going to kill the intellectual capital that is available here in the United States to build out the technology, the innovation, and ultimately the industries that make us competitive. So all of this stuff is really connected, and at the end of the day, it really is about how they are under the guise of boosting economic security in America first. What they're really doing is they're padding the pocketbooks of a few rich people, including Elon Musk. Forget what you heard, despite the fight, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they're doing it at the detriment to the rest of us and ultimately to our global positioning.
Let me ask another question real quick. Mother Africa has been a place that the chamber plays in, and his policy when it comes to Africa is a little bit disturbing also. Give us some insight in terms of what's happening on the international side, especially when it comes to Africa as a whole, which is one of the richest places in the world with natural resources. And Trump has been able to do deals that no other president has been able to do. I'm not saying the other president didn't do something, but it seems to be in your face. I'm doing it. Even when you take a look at the SEC and his selection for the leadership of the SEC, when I was in the investment banking business, if you even sneeze and had inside information, you were going to jail. That was just it. Everybody knew it was Martha Stewart went to jail. Everybody goes to jail. If there's any insight, if you're manipulating the market, any of those factors, that's gone out of the window now. So I'm gonna pause there that you would kind of give me your insights in reference to that.
Oof. I mean, you just said so much, and let's just start with the whole idea of market manipulation, inside trading, and just frankly, the president of the United States breaking all custom protocol and law around the president using that platform, that seat at the top of the global stage to enrich himself and his family. That's what he's doing with his little Bitcoin, his little Trump coin. That's what he has done in his first term with, buying up real estate and having people stay at his hotels that he owns in order to come visit him. That's what Mar-a-Lago is about. And then certainly the things that he is doing and the actors that he is putting in place, be it at the SEC or the DOJ for that matter, are literally there to kind of insulate him and his family and his cronies and their ability to do things that are ethically unsound to continue to enrich themselves. That is the big problem that I have with this administration and just the complete and total, flagrancy around the rule of law that we see constantly on display. Now, how he manages his, the ultimate international trade policy and the deal making, whatever that actually means. Because by the way, if you really look into the art of the deal in Donald Trump, the art of the Donald Trump deal is to pretty much take advantage of people, not pay them, and extract and extract and extract and make yourself wealthy on other people's backs. And so, that's not the attitude that I think is useful. We see this happening across the continent of Africa. The Chinese are there and others, that everybody understands the value of these natural resources. I think that for me, when we talk about trade policy and investing and trying to have some kind of like brokering, our diplomatic relations as it relates to our economic concerns, I would like that to actually be a little more diplomacy forward and a little bit more about how we're building long-term interest and relationships with people. Because I think that coming out of his mouth when Donald Trump talks about shithole countries, for example, pointing to Africa, right? When he's saying things that are extremely divisive about minority businesses in this country and Black people, period. You can't then go and say, well, I'm going to do a deal with you and I'm essentially going to get you to give me your natural resources for X, Y, and Z, because it becomes really disingenuous. And I think that there's a security threat there. I mean, this is exactly why China is investing in Africa and trying to create alliances. There's a real security threat, which gets into our diplomacy that has to do with our bullishness of going in and trying to like take over other people's resources. And so as much as it is, and just the wars that are happening right now, whether it be Ukraine, other places, as much as it is about natural resources and presumably economic development around it, there's an entire diplomatic, I think, relational issue that this administration is certainly no friend of Africa. And I can't imagine, how we would bridge that and broker that right now.
Well, it is such an important, and I think from the chamber's perspective is that our theme for our conference coming up, and I'm hoping that we'll get you guys to come to the conference and give us some insight also. That's going to be done in August the 5th, 6th, and 7th. Our theme is strengthening, leveraging each other for growth. Because I think if ever there's a time for us to come together to leverage our friends all around the globe and domestically also, it's where we really need to get to, where we're leveraging and utilizing all the assets we have. If we have Black Caucus in Springfield, are we leveraging Are we leveraging Black media? Are we leveraging our friends? Because there's a time now that we have to look out for each other in a way that we haven't done before. And this may very well be good because it may force us to come together in a way that we perhaps wouldn't have come together if we hadn't had this catalyst.
Yeah, and I'll just put a fine point on that. Thank you for that, because that is so true. And the opportunity that is in front of us right now, as federal government contracting is starting, is all but eliminated right in this moment, or I should say paused. The opportunity for us is to look to, as Black businesses, right, as minority business enterprises, as Black businesses, is to look to those direct business to business deals and opportunities and government public-private partnerships with other countries. So whether it be the Caribbean, right? If we're looking at the Caribbean and we know we've got amazing engineering firms here that should be building American infrastructure, but because of all of the malarkey and foolishness that we're talking about that's trying to cut minority businesses out of those contracts, why don't we then focus on business development in partnership with the governments of Caribbean countries who are desperate for infrastructure, would love to work with a Black-owned business who that has, extensive experience, and we can start to move and do deals with people that we have like real like-mindedness with, and help to build, ourselves and our businesses, but certainly boost other economies as well with those friendly relationships. I think we can do that with Africa. I think with various countries in Africa. I think that we can do that with various countries in the Caribbean, and really shifting, right now, some of that reliance on the U.S. Intermediary and just going direct is what we help folks do at Phoenix Strategies as well. So that's really a key, is that we're not just sitting on our hands, and businesses shouldn't just be sitting on our hands. Let us help you navigate other broader government affairs relationships that are global in order to continue to grow and expand with your business development.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Aisha, so much for being on the Wake Up Show Chicago and bringing us an update on what's going on in Washington with Phoenix Strategies. We thank all of you and your team for doing that, and we look forward to having you again another week. Larry, did you want to close with something? Because we got to get to some other business where we have a
No,
fashion show coming up.
hey, well, we have put it on our air that Phoenix Strategy will be coming on a consistent base, giving us update, and congratulations on being a new part of the team, Phoenix Strategy, with Nigel and with Greg. Hey, I'm looking
Thank
forward to
you.
strengthening our relationship.
Appreciate y'all. Have a good one.
Take
Thank you.
care.
You do the same. All right, guys. Chicago, it's time to strut for something bigger. Fashion for a Cause returns with a new date and new venue. That's Saturday, June 14th, 2025 at Loretto Hospital Auditorium at 645 South Central Avenue in Chicago. Enjoy champagne, hors d'oeuvres, and high-profile guests starting at 5 p.m. with a cocktail reception and red carpet promenade. The fashion show begins at 6 p.m. Early bird tickets are just $35. General admission is $50, and VIP access is only $150. So we've got the event will be covered by local media outlets, and for sponsorships or table availability or questions, you can call 317-408-9186, or you can email info@midwestfashionweek.com. Fashion meets purpose. Don't miss it. By the way, I'll be hosting that as the fashion show portion of it. Larry, it is time to get people out of here, and we got to let them know about the membership that we have at ilbcc.org. Make sure you go to ilbcc.org to become a member, or to get that information that Larry was talking about with the VIP cruise that's coming up June 26th. That's right around the corner. And we have a convention coming up in August 5th through the 7th. So all that information is on our website. We are here each and every Saturday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Central Time. Yes.
Madonna, I just got to say this.
Uh-huh.
You are all over the place.
What do you mean?
And, in terms of being, going from one event to the other, you are just blowing up. And I am so proud of the incredible work. Anyone who's looking for a talented sister that can really bring energy to the table, you got to call her up and pay her to make sure that you got someone with this incredible energy and so professional. So I'm just proud of the fact that you're a part of the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce, and Lorenzo too, incredible actor. Shout out to you guys. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And all right, guys, I'll see you Monday on the all new afternoon show right here on WVON 1690. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye for now.
Get ready to wake up to the pulse of progress as we amplify voices, break barriers, and illuminate the path towards a more inclusive tomorrow. Follow us across the socials at The Wake Up Show Chicago. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. It's The Wake Up Show every Saturday morning at 9, where change begins with every sunrise.
Welcome to The Wake Up Show Chicago.
That's the end?
The talk of Chicago is 1690 WVON, Sherwin, Chicago.
Join the faith community of St. Sabina for a powerful Summer of Peace kickoff rally and march on Friday, June 13th at 7 p.m. Come together with friends, family, and neighbors to spread a message of peace and unity in our community. Meet